I was walking home. Just walking home. I had my headphones in. A hoodie on. And then, I fit the description. He fit the description, the lie that stole his life. It was a Wednesday. The kind of day nobody remembers until it's the last one that feels normal. Andre Carter had just wrapped up his shift at the downtown community center. He was 22, a part-time youth counselor studying criminal justice, with a quiet charm and a wide, disarming smile. Every kid at the center knew him as the big brother who brought pizza on Fridays and diffused fights with humor instead of muscle. He left at 6:37 p.m. Security footage confirmed it. He wore jeans, white sneakers, and a navy hoodie with the center's logo on the front. He stopped at a corner store for an Arizona tea and a bag of chips. Said "have a good one" to the cashier, then stepped into the warm dusk air of East Willow Heights, a neighborhood that never made the news unless someone died there. 5 blocks away, a 911 call came in. A robbery. Purse snatching. Black male, mid-20s. Tall. Hoodie. That was all it took. Within minutes, 4 squad cars swarmed the area. Andre had headphones in. He didn't hear the shouting. Didn't see the guns. Didn't stand a chance. He turned the corner near Grant and 5th, looked up, and the red dots landed on his chest. "Get on the ground. Hands. Hands where I can see." Then came the tackle. The knee. The weight. He shouted his name. Screamed he couldn't breathe. That he worked at the center. That they had the wrong guy. None of it mattered. He fit the description. They held him down for 7 minutes. Backup arrived. Lights flooded the street. Curious neighbors peeked through blinds. Some stepped onto porches, filming with shaking hands. Andre's cheek was pressed to the concrete. His voice was muffled now, words slurred, then stopped altogether. When EMTs arrived, he had no pulse. One officer muttered, "He's faking it." But paramedics didn't waste time. They shocked him twice in the ambulance. Again at the hospital. At 8:19 p.m., Andre Carter was declared dead. The official cause, cardiac arrest due to excited delirium. The unofficial cause, one whispered, avoided, and buried in bureaucracy, was fear and bias wrapped in a uniform. The officers involved were put on temporary leave. No charges. No public statement. Local news ran a 1-minute segment, "Young man dies during police encounter." No name. No photo. Just a blurred out street corner and the same line over and over. He fit the description. Valerie Carter was making spaghetti when the knock came. She hadn't seen Andre since morning. He always texted when he got home, always kissed her cheek if he stopped by. She called him her sunrise, because he lit up her day and always showed up, even when clouds hung low. The knock was polite. Too polite. 2 men stood at the door in suits. Behind them, a uniformed officer kept his head down. "Mrs. Carter? May we come in?" Valerie didn't remember sitting. Or the words. Only the sudden vacuum in her chest. The stillness. Her son was gone. They told her he resisted. That it escalated quickly. That they did everything they could. Valerie didn't believe a word of it. Andre wasn't a threat. He was a helper. A protector. She pulled out her phone and showed them pictures. Andre at graduation. Andre teaching a group of kids how to play chess. Andre, laughing with his little cousin, dressed as Spider-Man for Halloween. She wanted them to see the man they'd killed. But they already had a picture in their minds, and it wasn't him. 3 days later, the video surfaced. Shaky. Grainy. Recorded from a second-floor apartment window across the street. It showed Andre walking, headphones in, hoodie up. He didn't see the first officer coming. Didn't hear the shout. Just a sudden shove. Then 3 more cops piling in. "Don't move. I didn't do anything. Stop resisting." His voice cracked under weight. He cried out. Then it stopped. The video ended with an eerie silence. No sirens. No medical rush. Just Andre's body still on the sidewalk while the officers stepped back, one of them casually sipping water. It spread fast. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. #Andre Carter. #he fit the description. #say his name. Comment sections exploded. He didn't even look like the suspect. You can't tell me this isn't murder. Again? This could have been my son. Cable news picked it up after 2 days. But not the major channels. Not yet. To them, it wasn't a story. To Valerie, it was everything. Valerie hadn't spoken to Donnell Carter in over a decade. He'd been gone most of Andre's life, another father swallowed by the system. But the day after the video aired, she got a call. "I saw what they did to him," Donnell said, voice shaking. "I need to help." She wanted to scream at him. Ask where he was during the birthdays, the college tours, the broken arm when Andre fell off his bike. But grief was louder than anger. She let him in. Donnell brought with him something no one expected: connections. He'd spent time with advocates, civil rights groups, and a former reporter who now ran a viral investigative podcast. And he had one goal. They're not going to bury our son. Not like this. While protests grew louder and the city held its breath, the real suspect, the man Andre was mistaken for, was quietly arrested in another city. His name was Marcus Lee. 29. 6 feet even. Neck tattoos. A scar across his right cheek. Nothing like Andre. No hoodie. No dreads. No resemblance. The local PD buried the arrest report, trying to avoid a PR disaster. But Donnell's contacts uncovered it within days. Valerie stood outside a courthouse holding a photo of Andre next to Marcus. "This is what racial profiling looks like," she said into a dozen microphones. "My son died because someone decided they all looked the same." That clip aired on the national evening news. That's when everything exploded. The officers claimed they followed procedure. That Andre fit the description. That he resisted. But the video, and public outrage, told another story. A grand jury was forced to act. One officer, Thomas Reed, was charged with involuntary manslaughter. 2 others were suspended pending investigation. Internal Affairs opened their first racial bias probe in a decade. Still, the city tried to settle quietly. They offered Valerie money. She refused. "This isn't about hush money," she said. "This is about justice." That's when threats started coming in. Phone calls in the middle of the night. Slash tires. A brick through the window with a note, "Drop it or you'll regret it." But Valerie didn't flinch. "I already lost my son," she told Donnell. "They can't scare me with anything worse than that." The trial was set for midsummer. Sweltering heat. Packed courtroom. Protesters outside holding signs with Andre's face, "He was just walking and justice for Andre." Valerie sat front row, clutching Andre's old football medallion. Behind her, Donnell, community leaders, and half a dozen families who had lost someone the same way. The prosecution built their case around one key piece of evidence: Officer Reed's bodycam footage. It was damning. Andre was calm, confused, unarmed. When they grabbed him, he said, "I think you got the wrong guy." He repeated it, "I think you got the wrong guy." Then, chaos. Screams. A thud. Silence. Valerie left the room sobbing. The defense tried to argue the officers were acting in good faith. But the jury watched the footage 3 times. No one spoke. Even the judge looked shaken. When Valerie returned to her seat, she held her head high. "They didn't just kill my son," she whispered to Donnell. "They tried to erase his humanity." It was late afternoon when the witness everyone had been whispering about finally took the stand. Detective Angela Ruiz. A 14-year veteran of the department. Known for keeping her head down. But something had changed. She looked the jury in the eye and said, "What happened to Andre Fields was not just a mistake. It was a cover-up." The courtroom rippled. Ruiz explained how, after Andre's death, she'd been assigned to review the paperwork. The timestamps didn't add up. Witness statements were altered. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station, missing. But she had made copies. She handed a USB drive to the court clerk. On that drive, she said, voice steady, is the original security footage. Andre wasn't running. He wasn't resisting. He was standing still when Officer Reed tackled him. Gasps. Valerie's hand flew to her mouth. Then Ruiz said the words no one expected to hear. I wanted to speak up earlier. But I was told if I did, I'd be reassigned, or worse. The judge ordered a recess. Reporters scrambled. The prosecution filed new motions. Officer Reed's lawyer asked for a plea deal. That night, Valerie sat alone in her car outside the courthouse, the USB in her lap. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "They finally saw you, baby. They finally saw the truth." The courtroom was full. Not with cameras. Not with politics. But with people, neighbors, teachers, bus drivers, a mailman who used to wave at Andre every morning. And in the front row sat Valerie Fields. Hands clasped. Eyes locked on the jury box. The judge entered. The bailiff called for silence. The foreman stood. In the matter of the state versus Officer Daniel Reed. A pause. We find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder. Gasps. Then tears. Then silence again, stunned, fragile silence. Valerie didn't move. She just breathed, like she'd been holding it for 2 years. Officer Reed sat motionless as the judge read the sentence, 35 years without parole. His badge revoked. His pension stripped. For once, the uniform didn't shield him. When the judge dismissed the court, Valerie rose slowly. People hugged her. Strangers. Supporters. Even Detective Ruiz, who whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." But Valerie's eyes were on one person, Andre's younger brother, Jamal, who had sat quietly through every hearing, sketching in his notebook. "Can I show you something?" Jamal asked. He flipped open to a drawing. Andre, smiling, holding hands with Jamal and Valerie, under a banner that read, "You fit the truth." Valerie's voice broke as she said, "He would have loved this." The case shook the city. A DOJ investigation was launched into the department's history of profiling. 5 other cases were reopened. New training laws passed. Body cam footage became mandatory and public within 48 hours. Valerie used part of the settlement money to open the Andre Fields Center for Justice, free legal aid, youth advocacy, and storytelling workshops for kids who felt unseen. Jamal kept drawing. One of his illustrations, Andre standing proud, surrounded by protest signs and candles, went viral. It now hangs in the state capitol. As for Andre, he never got the future he deserved. But his story forced the system to face itself. And across the country, whenever someone hears, "He fit the description," they ask one more question. Whose description? And who's writing it? If you enjoyed this episode of Chase Studio Stories, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue to share impactful and meaningful content.